Morning, everybody. Today we are going to talk about quadratic equations and factoring again. The difference today is that we're going to spend a little bit of time solving them instead. What I want to talk about today is something like x squared minus 5x plus 6 for what I want there. And the little piece, and we should be able to do this. We did this last week. We've done more complicated things than this over the course of last week. What I'm adding today is that piece. Okay, and it's a little step, but it's a step we got to take. Okay, now the first step is going to be exactly the same as it has been for us. We factor. Okay, so we're going to take x. Factors of 6 are 1 and 6, 2 and 3. Which of those will give me 5? They're going to have to be either both negative or both positive. So I'm going to want a negative 2, negative 3. And don't forget that equals 0. So this is where we've been. At this point, we haven't added anything new other than 3 pencil strokes. Okay? So staring at this problem, we have to remember that this term is being multiplied by this term, and that it has to equal 0. So that's what we're looking for. What are the values that when we plug in for x, we get 0? And what you're going to notice about the problems today is that we've got 2 answers for each problem. Okay? Now, the important rule, the big rule with all of this is anything times 0 is 0. Okay? So if I can make either of the things in parentheses, either one of these, 0, it doesn't matter what happens to the other parentheses. If one of them is 0, 0 times whatever the other one turns out to be will still give me 0. So this 0 is actually really important. We can't solve these problems unless the thing equals 0. So we want one of these to be 0. Well, I'll get to the algebra in a minute, but I want to walk us through this. 2 minus 2 is 0. If we ask the question, what minus 2 equals 0? 0. So I'm going to plug 2 in for both of these equations and just demonstrate what happens here. Okay, so this is for x equals 2. Here we have 2 minus 2. 2 minus 2 is 0. Times 2 minus 3 is negative 1. 0 times anything, in this case negative 1, is 0. So this is a true statement. So 2 is one of my solutions. If I can make anything here 0 or this 0, I'll be able to solve this equation for 0. So what we do, oops, let me get my x's back in there, is instead of trying to solve this equation, we actually go back to something that we were doing with our absolute values, and we make 2 equations. We know that if this is 0, the whole equation will work, so we set it equal to 0. We know that if this is 0, the whole thing will equal 0, and the equation will be true. We add 2 to both sides, x equals 2. We add 3 to both sides, and x equals 3. So again, today, you're going to spend most of the day with 2 solutions. Okay? First step is the same as we've been doing, and that's actually the tricky step. Okay, factoring. And then if it's equal to 0 and it has to equal 0, set both equations equal to 0 and you're good to go. Now, what do you do if I'm Trixie and I give you a problem that does not equal 0? Such as, let me see, where's one? There it is. 2x squared minus 8x. So this is going to be some of the trickier factoring we've dealt with, because we've got that coefficient out front. Minus 4 equals 3x minus x squared. Well, that is a pickle, because now I don't equal 0. Not only do I not equal 0, I've got variables on both sides of the equation. So this is messy for a whole bunch of reasons. But what we want to do, what we have to do is set the thing equal to 0. Now, we can't just drop everything on this side and say, well, now it equals 0, because that's a different equation. But we've got some algebra tricks. If we subtract 3x and add x squared to this side of the equation, 3x minus 3x is 0. Negative x squared plus x squared is also 0. So that'll give us 0. But remember, if we do something on one side of the equation, we have to do it to the other side. That's how we know that they're equal. So we're going to have to subtract 3x and add an x squared to this side as well. So 2x squared plus x squared is a 3x squared minus 11x, because negative 8 minus 3, minus 4 equals 0. And now we have an equation that we can work with. So let's solve. My factors of 3 are 1 and 3. My factors of 4 are 1 and 4, 2 and 2. We're going to have to do some guess and check here. The nice thing here is 3 can only be split up into 1 and 3, so we'll have a 1x and a 3x. And then we have to figure out if we want to use 1 and 4. Well, 11 is really close to 12. So if I can get 12, that might be something worth playing with here. And I know 3 and 4 will give me 12. So I'm going to make a really common mistake and put the 4 there and the 1 here. And 1 times 3 is 3. 4 times 1 is 4. That's 3. That gives me either 7 or 1. So that's probably not quite right yet. That's not what I want. But remember, I still like that 12. So maybe I just got everything in the wrong place. So I'm going to put the 4 here. And the 1 there. 4 times 3 is 12. 1 times 1 is 1. 12 minus 1. That's what I want. I want it to be a negative 11. So I'll make that negative and this positive. So I've factored. Again, that's the hardest part of these problems is factoring. I am set equal to 0. So I know that if this equals 0 or this equals 0, the whole problem will work out. So let's set them equal to 0. X minus 4 equals 0, and 3x plus 1 equals 0. Over here, x will equal 4. And over here, we will subtract 1 from both sides. 3x equals a negative 1. Divide both sides by 3. X will equal a negative 1/3. Or when you plug that in, please don't give me the decimals. The decimals will be wrong in the homework. Negative 1 / 3. Make sure you simplify your fractions today. Do not mix your fractions, leave them improper. And don't give me the decimal because I can't put in 15 different options for the answers. I'll go crazy. All right, so my plan now is to give you a practice problem and then release you into the mathematical wilds. But first, I should probably find a good problem for you. I'm going to edit this piece out. All right, so the problem I want you to do is up on the board. A real quick reminder, you need 0 on this side, so you're probably going to want to start there. Then do some factoring, write your 2 equations, and find your 2 answers. Go! All right, the first step is getting the 0 over here. So we're going to have to subtract both sides by 3. There we go. Okay, now we're set to equal 0, so we're shiny there. Factors of 2 are 1 and 2. Factors of 3 are 1 and 3. So now we just have to mix and match a little bit. 2 is only going to be 1 and 2. So I know the 1 and the 2 are the right. Now I just need to figure out how I want to deal with that 3. And the question is going to be, do I want it here or here? Because this is a tricky problem with that 5. There are a couple of different ways that I can do that, but I'm going to want them to be different. So I think that I want it like that. With a plus and a minus, let's just double check here. 3 and 2 is a positive 6, 1 and 1 is a negative 1. 6 minus 1 will give me that 5. 3 and negative 1 will give me that negative 3. All right, so we have factored. Huzzah. Now for the real quick algebra, this still equals 0. We know if either of these are 0, the whole thing will be 0. So we'll set them both equal to 0. Over here, x will equal negative 3. And over here, we'll add 1. 2x equals 1 divided by 2. X will equal 1/2. Okay, so that's what we're looking at today. If you need more help, please ask me. I'll be hanging around, or you can schedule help in the Setmore app, or alternatively, Oberg is also usually available in her GTAT or her Hangout as well. So go ahead and get to work on the homework. It is posted, and I will see you tomorrow.